Hi, I'm Tom Marino. At CohnReznick, we believe that all citizens need to be informed about the issues that affect their daily lives. That's why we're proud to support the programming produced by Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by United Water. Making the planet sustainable is the best job on Earth. Investors Bank. New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. CohnReznick, Accounting, Tax, and Advisory, where forward thinking creates results. ADP, a comprehensive provider of human resources technology and services. United Airlines, and by Fedway Associates.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Welcome to One-on-One. I'm Steve Adubato. More importantly, I want to introduce my college classmate who's done awfully well, better than most, better than me, I know. Tom Taranto, president of Bergen County's United Way. How you doing, Tom?
Very well, Steve. Good to see you.
Let's talk the fact that you and your colleagues at the United Way are very involved in housing, particularly affordable housing. Two areas. One, as it relates to autism, people who are dealing with autism, and the other having to do with victims of domestic violence. Break it down for us.
Sure. We do a broad range of affordable housing throughout pretty much the northern part of the state, Steve. But two of our projects, I think, are particularly noteworthy. One is in Ramsey, where we built for the first time with public financing, and only the second project of its type in the country, housing that was purpose-built for folks with autism. So special design considerations, hyperallergenic flooring, carpeting, a whole range of different kinds of thought and process in terms of that building. And it's now currently a home for 9 individuals, as you may know and probably well know. New Jersey, #1 in the nation in terms of the incidence of autism. So the cohort of young people who are going to require housing over time in New Jersey is pretty staggering. So our design features were meant to be replicated, and we have a couple of other sites where we hope to, the design exterior will change, the aesthetic will change on the outside.
Why does that matter so much, Tom? The design?
The design, because what we've discovered is that, for example, we have one young man who lives in Ramsey who was not able to go outside without earphones on. So oral stimulation would be a trigger for him. Now that he lives in Ramsey, he takes his headphones off and he can live comfortably in his own home. Because, for example, the way the air conditioning or the HVAC system was designed, it's baffled, it's in the basement, it's special soundproofing. So there isn't any of the kind of hums either from the electrical, the lighting, or from the heating and ventilation systems that could be an oral trigger, for example, for folks with autism who are highly sensitive to those kinds of noises.
How does it help them? How does it help them in terms of their development?
Well, it helps them in terms of the fact that they're not preoccupied, in this particular example, by those kinds of ambient noises. They're very comfortable. The home is very spacious. The need for service, we have found in all the supportive housing that we've done, diminishes because people basically flourish. They develop their skills. They key off one another. So we have discovered that the support services which are provided by direct care providers actually diminish over time.
You know, the other area, which is so interesting not in a great way, but in an important way, victims of domestic violence, women who are suffering from domestic violence. You and your colleagues at the United Way have gotten into this. Talk about it.
Well, people who have suffered domestic violence are considered a special population, a special needs
where
population.
do they go?
Well, housing for folks with who've survived domestic violence is in short supply. So we came across a project that's pretty interesting in New Brunswick. We talked about it previously. One of the oldest churches in New Brunswick. A woman, about 20 years ago, a woman who was being battered, sought refuge in the church. The batterer followed her there and set the back of the church on fire. Fortunately, no one was hurt. She was injured. The church badly damaged. And in kind of an ironic twist, the fact that the back of the church had to be rebuilt meant that the historic hold, if you will, over redevelopment.
I mean, you couldn't develop it because it was under some sort of historic hold that said you couldn't develop it because it was on a list of historic landmarks.
Right. So what we're doing is it's the readaptive use of a church, but we're not eliminating the church use. We're actually reducing the sanctuary and preserving it because the membership of the church has declined over time. So now we're giving the church back a sanctuary that's smaller, fits the congregation, will be quite beautiful, modernizing the mechanical systems. Previously, the church had no air conditioning and did not have a working heating plant. And we're wrapping 10 apartments around the back of the church in collaboration with the State Historic Preservation Office. So we're carefully preserving all of the features of the church that make it so important from a historic perspective. This, by the way, is where Rutgers College, then known as Queens College, first started. In fact, in the cemetery there are 5 former presidents of Rutgers who are interred there. So highly sensitive site, but really a wonderful adaptive reuse, especially when you consider what occurred to the church.
What does it mean to these women?
It means permanent, safe, affordable housing. We've already identified 8 of 10 tenants. This project will be done, we expect, by around mid-December, occupancy for January 1 of 2016.
You know, I've often thought about this time, the reaction of a community. The whole not in my backyard syndrome, that's okay. I want you to help other people. I want you to build affordable housing, but not in my backyard.
Right.
What have you found?
Well, Steve, I think we have about 20 projects in the pipeline. We have 7 projects under construction right now in communities like Mahwah, Tenafly, New Brunswick. We have preliminary site plan approval for supportive housing. In fact, a replication of our model in Ramsey, the housing devoted to folks with autism in Colts Neck. When I mentioned earlier that autism is pretty prevalent in the state of New Jersey, it's not uncommon for us to go before a mayor and council to explore the possibility of a project and discover that a council member or a mayor has a child or a nephew or a niece who is developmentally disabled. When we go before a planning board, similarly, we often find that members of that planning board have a direct firsthand experience.
How do they respond?
They respond positively. We really
no real pushback?
What we have found is that education is the key. So often what we'll do is we'll have an informal meeting or a caucus in a Panera Bread or at a Starbucks. In one case, in fact, today, we're closing on a piece of property in Glen Rock done in collaboration with the mayor and council there. And in the neighborhood where we're acquiring this particular piece of property, the mayor went around door to door and spoke to all the neighbors and explain what the project was.
No real pushback?
There was some, but until folks understood, until folks were kind of educated and made aware of what we build. And the other, I think, crucial piece is that we build an extraordinarily attractive product.
I mean, physically it looks good.
Physically, the curb appeal.
But let me ask you this, before I let you out of here. Are you getting a sense, Tom, that most people are saying, I want to help those who are dealing with autism, I want to help those who are victims of domestic violence, and I'm okay with it in my own community if it's built the right way and it has, quote unquote, your term, curb appeal? You sense that?
Yeah, I do. What we have found as we have met with different governing bodies throughout the state of New Jersey, one is that the beauty of the product is very appealing and becomes the brochure, if you will.
Right.
And then secondly, what we have found is that most governing bodies, most mayor and councils are interested in doing affordable housing. They just need a path to do it.
You help them do it.
Well, it's been so litigious in the state of New Jersey, affordable housing, a pejorative term. And we've managed to demystify it, if you will,
Good
for
stuff.
a lot of governing bodies.
All right, here's the last question. We were in political science classes together, and we talked about leadership as kids.
Right.
So here's the question before I let you out. Biggest leadership challenge you have faced in your life as a leader in the nonprofit world is? Leadership challenge. Go ahead, on the spot.
I think the biggest leadership challenge that we have faced has been to cut through the process and the bureaucracy and to take action. Sometimes well done is better than well said. And here in this state, you really have to, I think, push pretty hard to get something accomplished. So being in motion and staying in motion, I say, is a leadership lesson.
Tom Taranto, president of Bergen County's United Way. Thanks, Tom. Good stuff.
My pleasure. Thank you,
Well done.
Steve.
Stay right there. One-on-one will continue right after this. Thank you, Tom.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato Ph.D. and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We welcome Dr. Steve Kreutzer, who is Associate Professor of Computer Science at Bloomfield College. Good to see you, Doctor.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Can we talk a little cybersecurity?
Absolutely.
That's an area of your expertise, right?
Yes.
What's the deal?
Well, cybersecurity is a very important field. It's extremely important because individuals, businesses, and our national security face growing threats, rapidly growing threats.
How do you teach it?
By
the way, when's too soon to teach it?
That's a great question.
I have the questions, I don't have the answers.
Sooner the better. And that's an issue in K through 12.
Really?
Teaching students about computer science and computer security.
But at Bloomfield College, what's the focus on the teaching?
At Bloomfield College, because I see this as a big issue for our society, and I feel everyone should become computer security literate, I feel that all the students should be able to learn about computer security. And what I did to make that happen is develop a course that any student can take, a general education class. And it's very rare across the whole country to have a course that students can take without having at least a couple of years of prerequisites.
What are the keys to it?
The keys to it are learning about the basics of how a computer works, about how the web works, about networks. So learning some very basic technology, and by learning the basic technology, they can understand the threats.
So is it for high school, college? What? I don't want to understand this.
Well, it's a college class, and because I feel so strongly that students they need to learn about computer security, and also because I want more students to pursue the study of computer science, we're offering the class to high school students. So in the summer, we taught Newark Collegiate Academy students, and
did they get college credit?
They got college credit.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
What kind of reaction did you get from most of those younger students? Could they deal with it?
Absolutely. They're great students. And also Bloomfield High School. This semester we're teaching 15 Bloomfield High School students.
To what degree are 15, 16-year-old students handling psychologically and emotionally the cybersecurity threats, the real-life threats that you know better than most are out there? Can they handle that stuff?
I think they can. I think they're pretty mature to be able to handle it and understand it.
Because I gotta tell you, there are a lot of adults that have a hard time dealing with it. And in that spirit, since most aren't going to get to take your course, who are watching right now, 5 or so keys to protecting ourselves from the kind of cyber-related problems. I don't even know if I want to call it, why don't we do this? Protecting ourselves, is it from cyber attacks or cyber threats? Which way do you want to go here? Are they the same thing?
Well, the threat is the possibility of an attack.
Okay, so 5 ways to protect ourselves from a cyber attack.
So one is to have antivirus software installed on your computer, including Apple computers. Many people who have Apple computers think that they're immune from viruses, and they're not.
Are some better than others? Meaning the antivirus.
Some may be better than others, but the first thing is to have that software.
Got it.
And to keep it up to date. Having a firewall installed and configured appropriately on your home network.
Can you explain that to folks who may not even understand what that means?
So a firewall is a device that often runs on the computer or the router in your home, and what it does is it protects you from incoming threats, from people probing your computer and attacking it.
Next.
So next is to back up your data regularly. That's very important because one of the crimes is ransomware. So
what is it?
Ransomware. So that's a criminal encrypting or making the data on your computer unreadable and asking you to pay them $500 to restore it.
What?
That's a
They
common,
steal your stuff and they say, you want it back, give me $500.
That happens to individuals and companies as well.
Most people pay it?
Actually, I don't know the percentages, but there are police departments that have been attacked and have paid it.
So you're stuck if you don't do what you just said, back it up.
Absolutely.
Anything else we can do?
Okay, so knowing how Wi-Fi works.
I get confused by Wi-Fi, meaning I'm always asking my wife, Jen, and she knows when I'm on the, on the computer. She goes, look, I know it's a Wi-Fi related question, because I'm confused by then we're down to Jersey Shore, like what Wi-Fi system I'm supposed to be on. There are multiple options?
Actually, there are multiple options, and making sure you join the right network. So it's a relatively complicated thing, but one way to think about it, and not to be alarming, but free Wi-Fi should be thought about as half-price sushi on
What?
Monday at a restaurant.
Wait a minute, hold on. Free Wi-Fi, this is going to be quoted somewhere. Free Wi-Fi should be thought of as half-price sushi. Sounds dangerous.
Wi-Fi in public places is susceptible for being intercepted.
Hold on, I'm hanging out at Starbucks, or for those who love Dunkin' Donuts or wherever you are. There it is. I'm good. No?
No.
No?
No.
Because?
So for example, if you put it this way, would you do your mobile banking from Starbucks?
By the way, we have nothing
Maybe
against
not.
Starbucks.
Sorry, Dunkin',
okay,
sorry.
but the point is...
Airport, better.
Airport, better. Go ahead.
Airport, same thing. So there are all sorts of scams. So evil twin routers and rogue routers, these are scams where people set up routers and want you to log into them. And sometimes they even charge you money, so they steal your account information, and then observe what you're doing. So with free Wi-Fi, you're susceptible to eavesdropping, that's all.
So it's interesting, it's often used, hey, we have free Wi-Fi as a promotion, and you're saying, wait a minute, it sounds great, but you really need to think twice.
You have to think twice, yes. So free Wi-Fi for reading the newspaper, that's fine. Free Wi-Fi for doing something that you want to be secure is not so good.
War driving is?
So war driving is what some criminals will do. They'll drive around to neighborhoods and try to find unsecured wireless networks in people's homes.
How would they know that?
By seeing if there are tools that can receive the signal from the Wi-Fi, and they could see if it has a password on it. So another part of the Wi-Fi is for home networks. So being able to secure your home network, which many people don't know how to do. So it's good to have someone who knows something look at your router.
Before I let you out here, should it scare us that it appeared that at certain points in time in the last year or so, certain major corporations and large institutional operations looked like some folks got into the system and mucked around?
Well, if you're the CEO of Target or Home Depot or Ashley Madison.
I'm sorry, Ashley Madison.
Ashley
I
Madison.
haven't heard of that. Is there such a thing?
Oh, that's the website for...
I'm joking.
Yeah.
I have no,
Yeah,
I've
Ashley
heard
Madison.
about it, but I just don't
So there
know.
are a bunch of CEOs, also the Director of Office of Personnel Management, who lost their jobs as a result of breaches.
This stuff is going on. But we need to protect ourselves. And we can, can't we?
We can. Actually, the way we can is to be educated.
There it is.
So the way we can is to read a book, take a class, and by the way, there are 1 million jobs by 2020 in the computer field that will be available for computer science graduates that won't be filled. So learn about computer security if you're a student or a professional, and there are great careers. Zero unemployment.
Zero unemployment.
Zero
There's
unemployment,
going to be
computer
challenges,
security.
create opportunities. Dr. Arnold, thank you so much. Dr. Stephen Kreutzer, who is Associate Professor of Computer Science at Bloomfield College. By the way, I was riding around Bloomfield College area. You guys have more development going on and helping that downtown Bloomfield area in so many ways. Good stuff.
Oh, great.
Keep it up. Thank you, Stephen. Stay right there. We'll be right back right after this.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, Ph.D. and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
We are pleased to be joined by Dr. Nancy Chiaravalloti, who is the Director of Neuroscience and Traumatic Brain Injury Research at Kessler Foundation. Good to see you, Doctor.
Good to see you, too. It's a pleasure to be here.
Traumatic brain injury. Describe it. What is it?
Traumatic brain injury is any change in the functioning of the brain that results from an external force striking the head.
How does it happen?
It can happen from a variety of reasons. It could be a fall, motor vehicle accident. Concussions are traumatic brain injuries. So traumatic brain injuries vary in severity. You can have a very mild traumatic brain injury, which is more along the concussion spectrum, or you can have a more moderate to severe traumatic brain injury, which results in hospitalization and very often prolonged rehabilitation.
You know, I've known of your work in the Kessler folks for a long time, but I saw you on with our colleague, Mary Alice Williams, on the Nightly News on NJTV News, and you were talking a lot about football. We'll talk about that in a minute. You believe football should be banned, tackle football until high school. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you've also said that as it relates to traumatic brain injuries, which have an impact on someone's ability to think and their memory. What is the correlation there? And then we'll talk about some of the therapies connected to helping people with their memories.
Well, the ramifications of a traumatic brain injury vary widely. It's a very heterogeneous population. So your brain controls everything you do, everything. Speaking, learning, remembering information, walking, balance, everything you do. So as a result, when the brain is injured, anything can happen as a result of that injury. So you could have balance problems. You could have difficulty walking. You may not be able to sit upright in a chair. And then commonly you have emotional problems following traumatic brain injuries, and you have what we call cognitive problems. Cognitive problems refers to difficulty thinking, difficulty processing information, so understanding a conversation, and difficulty learning and remembering new information. And in fact, we learn and remember new information every single day of our lives. So that has a profound impact on how somebody can function in their daily life.
But a lot of your work involves retraining?
Yes.
The brain, how? Give us a concrete example.
So one of the programs that we work on is called the story memory technique.
The story memory technique. Go ahead.
Right. And what we do in that program is we teach patients to remember new information, and we give them skills to help them do that. So we teach them to use context and imagery
Give me for instance.
to remember new information.
Is that putting you on the spot to do that?
No, not at all.
Go ahead.
Not at all. So as an example,
Georgette, do we have a picture? Can we do this?
We do. Yeah,
Let's
sure,
play it out.
absolutely. As an example, if I had the words butter, mother, and blossom to remember.
Would I see that picture? Would you show me that picture?
I would not show you that picture.
Okay, go ahead.
What I might ask you to do is put that in a meaningful context.
Butter, mother,
and blossom.
and blossom. Go ahead.
Right. So three completely different words. They have nothing to do with one another. But what I may teach you to do is put them together in a meaningful context and form an image of that context. So what we have here is a picture of a mother, and the person would picture their own mother, because that's the most salient image for them, churning butter. So she's sitting at a device where she's churning butter, and there are blossoms around her. Now, blossom is a difficult word. Many people think bloom, they don't think blossom. So it's a very subtle difference. So as the training gets more and more intricate, and we teach patients to distinguish between words like blossom and bloom, you might suggest that the patient, if they're familiar with Washington, D.C. and the cherry blossoms, that they picture the cherry blossoms in Washington, D.C. And that's why that's what's pictured in that image there.
But in the teaching of this, if someone struggles with it, can you actually help them in areas where they're struggling to get stronger?
Yes. What you do is you go back to basics, and you tell them, okay, so you need to remember the word coffee. Picture a cup of coffee, and I want you to think of that image.
Right.
What our research is showing is that when they're doing that, they're engaging different brain regions in the process of remembering that new information. So we do fMRI scans, functional magnetic resonance imaging. That's basically a movie of the brain. We're looking at the brain as it's learning new information, and we're seeing what it's doing. When we look at those scans before treatment, and then we look at them again after treatment, what we see is that different areas of the brain are active after treatment. And those areas are the areas that are involved in spatial processing and spatial reasoning.
And none of this is invasive?
No, none at all. You sit at a computer with a therapist for 10 sessions. It's very short. We do it in over 5 weeks. And from before those 10 sessions to after those 10 sessions, we're seeing these dramatic changes in how the brain is able to learn and remember new information.
How rewarding is this for you?
It's incredibly rewarding. One of the things I really like to do, and we do fairly often at Kessler Foundation is I speak to consumers. We do consumer conferences, and we like to talk to them about our research, and we like to hear what their lives are like. The best thing somebody can say to me is, oh, I went through your program and I feel so much better. My life is so much better.
And real quick, you need people, do you need,
we do.
Should they call them volunteers? What do you need?
We do. We call them participants in our research studies. So if anyone's interested in helping us, we would greatly appreciate volunteers.
1 second, as the doctor's talking, Georgette, could we put up the website for Kessler? Keep talking.
Sure. So we're looking for persons who have a traumatic brain injury. We also do research in multiple sclerosis, so persons who have multiple sclerosis, we have the same type of work going on. And also we need healthy volunteers, because what we do in our research is we can pair how the brain is functioning in someone who has a TBI or someone who has multiple sclerosis. We compare that to how someone who does not have those injuries is processing information.
I got to do this, 1 minute left. Why are you saying that we should ban tackle football until young people are in high school?
As I mentioned earlier,
Minute left, go ahead.
As I mentioned earlier, concussion is a mild TBI. It's a permanent injury. The symptoms fade, but the injury is permanent. When someone has a concussion, they're prone to have repeat concussions. They're more prone to have concussions in the future. Our youth are particularly prone to concussions, largely because their necks are smaller, and our neck is what supports our head. So we don't want them to have concussions because they could have lifelong consequences.
Don't let them play until they are how old?
I would suggest JV or varsity level, but I didn't say don't let them play, because football's a complicated game. There are a lot of things they could start learning about the game. There are certainly things that they could do at a very young age. It's just the tackling I think we need to be careful about.
Dr. I want to thank you so much for sharing such important information about things that matter in our lives so much. Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you.
Sure.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by United Water, Investors Bank, New Jersey Sharing Network, Cone Resnick, ADP, United Airlines, and by Fedway Associates. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey, and by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Each year, Americans fill 4 billion prescriptions, but as much as 1/3 of that medication will never be used. Some of this waste ends up in the rivers, lakes, and streams that make up our drinking water supply. The United Water Foundation and the National Community Pharmacists Association have partnered to bring you a simple solution. Dispose your meds responsibly. Go to disposemymeds.org to find a participating pharmacy and to learn more. A public service message from the United Water Foundation and NCPA.